Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comics preview video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our bigger show where we go over a lot of the biggest and best books that are coming out this week to your local comic book store or coming in the mail to you if you've pre-ordered them. So just remember, we're with Infinity Flux, and you can go over to infinityflux.net and follow along. You can order all these new books as they are available and get them shipped directly to you. Yeah, okay, so was there a bug? But yes, so some really good stuff coming out this week. A lot of exciting new big stuff to talk about, and a lot of stuff I feel like needs explanation. Like my first two, I feel like you just see titles and it's like, what do they mean? So that's what we're here for. So let's get into it. Now, I'm going to start off this week with Star Wars Revelations. It says issue number 1. That's because it's just a one-shot, but this is the second year they've done the Star Wars Revelations title, and it is kind of if you're familiar with the Marvel Timeless books, kind of like that. It's setting up this coming year, like 2024's Star Wars books, by telling you a little bits of stories, kind of little prequel stories to what you're going to be seeing coming up. So now, unlike, I feel like the previous one did it where it was more like the Timeless, where it was a complete story with kind of little bits in between that give you hints. This is more individual stories.
Oh, okay. So it's a little different.
More of an anthology style, less of like a through narrative for all of them. Although Jabba does play kind of he's mentioned in multiple stories, so I kind of feel like maybe he's the through line of a lot of them. But so some of the stories you're going to get, the first one is Dengar, the bounty hunter, is on trial for basically in a drunken stupor driving a speeder through a place and blowing stuff up. And his attorney basically uses his out is he was under Jedi mind control.
That'll
and of course the Empire's like, that doesn't really hold up because our official statement is the Jedi don't exist anymore, so that doesn't hold up. But it looks like this might be the attorney that is going to be representing Lando coming up in the main Star Wars title. We also have so I believe it might be her first appearance. Her name is Sally Giorgio, which almost sounds like a normal name.
Yeah.
But
it sounds like a fashion designer.
Yeah. So that possibly first appearance. I didn't look it up, but I believe that is. Then we have a story with Raslin Grace, a bounty hunter, that basically tells like a tall tale of like great exploits that they went on, where it's like, oh, I fought this creature, and you see the creature in one panel and they're like, no, it was bigger than that, and then the next panel it's even bigger. It's really fun. But this looks like it's possibly leading to a new Dr. Aphra book, since the last one is ending coming up, but it looks like Aphra might be the target of this bounty hunter. We've also got a Jango Fett story by Ethan Sachs, who's going to be doing the Jango Fett miniseries that's coming up, that's kind of a post Bounty Hunters series book that is really cool. It's great to have a Jango Fett story. We have a Mace Windu story that is it's kind of like a little precursor to the miniseries we're going to be getting coming up. We've got a Vader story that's going to be continued in Vader issue 42 that's really cool. We've got a High Republic story, and we have a story that stars kind of some obscure Star Wars characters. One of them is Bane Malar, who is a really background character from A New Hope that was just meandering in the streets.
They're like, who have we not made a book about yet?
But there's a figure of him. And the return of a character named Rick Duell, who was an old character from 1997 from the Hutt Gambit, which was a Han Solo novel. Makes a return in this, along with some other familiar faces from some of his stories. So just a lot of really fun stuff in this one. A great kind of kickoff for the new year for Star Wars books, and give you a little bit of taste of what's to come. Now, I will say, you see Thrawn on the cover. Thrawn is not in this. The only thing that's Thrawn related is there is some black and white preview pages for that new adaptation of the Thrawn book coming up, but it's not like any new material starring Thrawn. So that is Star Wars Revelations. And we've got some variants for that. We've got this really nice De La Torre variant with Jango Fett. And we have this 1 in 25 Massafara variant that we're selling for $25. And you can see Rick Duel reflecting in Jabba's eye. So pretty cool in there.
Jabba's got his eye on him,
Yep.
I guess. All right, well, first for me is Titans Beast World Tour Central City. This is just the next of the one-shots tying into the Beast World crossover, just showing us what's going on in different cities around the DC universe while all the Beast World stuff is happening. So this is kind of an anthology book, but it's like, so it's got like three smaller stories, but each one of them tie or connect to the larger story in this book. So there is one through line. It starts with Irie telling. How do you say it again? Irie.
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 Irie and Jay.
Yeah, it starts with Irie telling Barry about what's going on, and then they have to figure out, oh, we need to pull everybody together, and then it goes off to the three different stories and shows what they're going through, and then they all come back together at the end. So we have Barry and Irie. They have to go to Iron Heights because Godspeed has turned into a big bee, so they have to deal with him. Of course, all the other rogues have turned into beasts as well. There's another story with Wallace and Avery. So from the Speed Force book right now, if you're reading that, and they're actually dealing with Fadeaway Man, who is now a squirrel. And they're having to
Fadeaway
chase him
squirrel.
around. Yeah. There's a Jai and Maxine Baker, so Animal Man's daughter. They also take on Godspeed because he gets out of Iron Heights and starts buzzing around the city. There's a Circuit Breaker and Pied Piper. They just fight some like regular people who have been turned into rats, obviously, because you've got Pied Piper.
Oh, yeah.
And then they all come back together at the end to battle Godspeed, who is back, who has gone back to Iron Heights, plus all the other rogues. Like I said, they've all been turned into beasts. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on, a lot of like zipping around, because there's a bunch of speedsters in this, a lot of beasts, a lot of, Maxine Baker is able to do something interesting with the folks who have been turned into beasts. So there's just a lot of that kind of stuff going on. But just like all the other ones, just a one shot. So if you just want to see what's going on in Central City while all the other Beast World stuff is going on, then this is the book for you. So we have our egg cover right there. And then the only other cover I have to show is this Cully Hamner variant. Kind of a nice, like sort of a, 50s horror movie poster kind of thing. That's it right there.
Very cool. I've got an interesting one up next. This is Original X-Men #1. So this is another one shot. Got a really nice Ryan Stegman cover on that. So this is by Christos Gage, and the interior art is by Greg Land. And this one's really interesting. So I would definitely I would read this one slowly because there's a lot going on in here. A lot of text, a lot of dialogue, and the thing is, it's dealing with multiple versions of different X-Men. So in this, a Phoenix shows up, like Jean Grey Phoenix, but is definitely not the main one. And even her costume's a little bit different. I feel like it's a little more purple than like the scarlet red that she has. And she actually shows up to the original X-Men back in the day when they're younger, like you see on the cover. And basically says, I need your help in the future because there's another Phoenix, kind of a Phoenix, Dark Phoenix, that is taking over, and I need your help. And she reveals to them their memories that were taken away back in All New X-Men when the young X-Men came to the future. She kind of like opens that back up and like, see, I remember all this stuff, that kind of thing.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, it's very dangerous. So it's really interesting because it's the Phoenix that they're going to fight is from Earth 696, which I don't know if this has ever been used before, but it requires a lot of like the young X-Men going to the older X-Men and convincing them of what's going on, and it's interesting. But like I said, you need to read it slowly because even after I read it, I still need to go back and be like clarify some parts of it. The art is very dense. Every inch of these pages covered with art, so it's really cool. But there seems to be a greater threat than even this Phoenix that is coming from an unexpected place. And I don't want to give away too much because most of this is at first you're like, this feels like a lot of setup for a one shot until you realize that this is actually going to be continuing in a new series starting next year called Weapon X-Men. So instead of Weapon X, it's Weapon X-Men. So this is a kind of a precursor to that that's getting you kind of familiar with what maybe that story is going to be. So the whole time I'm like, this feels like we're setting up like X-Men meeting other X-Men.
Yeah.
It's gonna, how are they gonna take on the Phoenix at the end? Well, you realize there's something else going on. So if you want to be on the forefront of that new series, you'll definitely want to check that out because it sounds really interesting. And I want to say the character you see on the last page is kind of a surprising version of a character. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, no form of that character appeared in this entire issue until you get to this one point. So really interesting one there. If you're an X-Men fan, definitely check it out. We also have this John Romita Jr. variant for that as well with some very original X-Men.
Very the original, yeah, like
The first time
OG.
anyone saw them.
Right. All right, so next for me is Daredevil Black Armor #2. Continuing this, I believe it's a 5-issue miniseries. First issue was great. This issue was great too. Written by D.G. Chichester, who was writing Daredevil back in the '90s, back when Daredevil was wearing that black armor. And the art is by Neto Diaz, and it looks really, really good. So after last issue, Daredevil is continuing to investigate the who's and the what's and the whys of all the people around the city that are going missing, because there's like big like groups of people just go missing all of a sudden. So he's trying to figure all of that out. He is able to track them down to a train yard, like see like they're getting loaded onto a train and he's witnessing this happen. But before he's able to save them, he's attacked by Hobgoblin. And I was trying to think about how not to spoil like the villains that he fights, but then I realized, oh, they're right there on the cover. Yeah, they're on the A cover. So
If it's on the A cover, it's fair game.
yeah, it's on the A cover. So, but yeah, Hobgoblin pops up, and when do you get to see Daredevil fighting Hobgoblin? I always liked Hobgoblin too. I mean, I'm a Green Goblin fan, but Hobgoblin is cool too. And Daredevil fighting Hobgoblin is really cool. And they launch into a big fight. Their fight leads them down through into the train tunnels, which starts to go underground, where they run into Sabretooth, and he jumps into the fray. So you've got Daredevil fighting Hobgoblin and Sabretooth. That's like a Marvel Comics '90s Mad Libs. Like just pick a hero and pick two random villains. But that's that a lot of this issue is just the three of them just duking it out. The art is great, so it's really fun. It's really action packed. I won't say anything more after that, but Daredevil finally figures out who is behind all this. We knew it based on what we saw at the end of last issue. So Daredevil finally finds it out. But what we didn't know last issue that we do now know is why they're doing it, which I was really confused last issue, but now we know why it's happening. It's very cool. The last page of this is very cool. I can't wait for the next one. So, Marvel puts out a lot of, these 5-issue miniseries, but this one has been one of the better ones I've read in quite some time. Just everything about it is just really good. So there's our A cover from Mark Bagley right there, and then we have this really cool Martin Coccolo Stormbreakers variant. That's your Immortal Thor artist right there. So doing a very cool Daredevil cover as well.
Very cool. I'm really excited to read that. I hadn't read any of it because I'd never read any of that time period of Daredevil.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, am I going to be confused? But after you explain it, so it's like, I know who Sabretooth is. I know who
Yeah.
Hobgoblin is. I feel like I could jump in and
Yeah.
not need
It's
a lot of context.
It's just a fun book. It's this kind of thing I look for in a book where it's fun. It's got a lot of action. You could hand it to a kid and they would think it's really cool. So it's got all of that going for it.
And silver shoulder pads.
Yeah, and
Kids
actually,
love those.
well, I've said that if you took the armor off, I think it would be a really cool costume. There's actually one scene where a Hobgoblin throws like a batarang or something at him, and he blocks it with his shoulder pad, and it like ding, it dings right off. So I was like, it's cool.
Yeah.
I get it now.
For that one moment.
For that one time,
where I
yeah.
was like, I knew I'd need this.
Right.
Okay, next up, I've got Superman #9. And continuing to love this run of Superman. And this issue is really cool because your Nightwing artist, Bruno Redondo, comes on board to do some art. And we know that he's going to be the artist through this kind of Wild West story that we're going to be getting. But this one actually picks up after, we just finished the Chained storyline. Superman really got his butt handed to him. is in very critical condition, and that's where we pick it up where Superman is in a hospital. He's getting like kind of pelted by uh, solar
Mm.
rays to kind of revive him, and Lois is in there reading him Superman fan mail,
Huh.
which is just lovely when you read about like what Superman means to these people
Yeah.
and all of that. It's a really heartwarming moment. But meanwhile, Graft, kind of one of our big villains that's been throughout this entire thing, uh, is planning to take on Marilyn Moonlight. We don't quite know what it is, but we do get some hints in this that maybe they have a long history, like long time ago. Because we've gotten some of the hints that like Marilyn Moonlight is from the days of Metropolis past.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot more to learn about her.
Maybe Graft is the same way. You'll have to
Okay.
read it to find out. But there's some hints that maybe they're a little bit more timeless than what we thought. Um, so Superman, it's not a spoiler to say he gets this new suit in there. It's on the cover.
It's on the A cover, so it's
Yeah,
fair game.
yeah. So to fight Graft, Superman has to put on this armor because Graft has a lot of like kryptonite related
Yeah.
attacks and everything, and they basically tell Superman like, "Hey, you were so like hit by kryptonite that you're really susceptible to it right now. If even the slightest bit gets to you, it could mean your death. So you need to wear this armor." Of course, when he first sees the armor, it's colored like Lex Luthor. It's green and purple, and he's like, "We got to make some modifications to this first
Huh.
before I will wear this."
We
But
got to add a cape.
yeah, he does step in, and you'll have to read it to find out. But something is going to send him back to the Old West, where we're going to be getting that new storyline.
That's right, because we got that beefcake cowboy Superman
Yeah.
cover coming.
And you do see Beefcake Cowboy Superman, but he's doing something you don't expect him to be doing. Maybe even breaking the law?
What?
What? But I will say, one of my things was when we talked about it on one of our other shows, it's like, oh, I hope we see maybe some other Old West characters like Jonah
Right,
Hex
yeah.
or any of those. There are two Old West DC characters that show up in this that I was very
Oh
excited to
man.
see.
Now I'm going through all the Golden Age DC stuff, like
They have a big catalog
yeah, they do.
of that era, uh, kind of Old West.
Yeah, like yeah.
So,
There's a lot of them in that Golden Age DC book that I have
yeah,
that I'm trying to think. The Tornado Twin, is that one of them? No, maybe not.
but you have to read it to find out, and it's really good and makes me even more excited to see what is coming up with that. So, yeah, no big like first appearances or anything, but I hope that part of this may launch some interest in doing some more of those stories
Yeah.
because when you see the characters in here, you'll immediately be like, "Oh, I wouldn't mind a book about them.
Yeah.
That'd be cool." So that is Superman #9. Definitely don't miss it because it's so good. Redondo's art, especially the opening page, is just a repeating sequence of Lois reading letters, and it just feels really nice.
Yeah.
It's her kind of emotionally reacting to the letter she's reading, but without her moving from the panel. It's really good. It's really well done. We've got some variants for this as well. We have are these just called like they're just called the Santa variants?
Yeah, I think so.
This is the Michael Janin Santa variant.
Yeah,
Of
we
course,
got another.
homaging.
Yeah, we got another one or two of those coming later.
I want to know what Superman's so upset with that snowbank about. Or maybe he doesn't like this new sleigh he got.
Wait,
or
is that Superman doing that or Santa?
Santa?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Santa doesn't like his new sleigh.
Yeah.
He's crashing it on the
I
snowbank.
wanted heated seats.
Or maybe he got a new one and they're like, "Okay, Santa, you can just go crazy and smash your other
Yeah.
one. It's all good." We also had this Libramejo variant. Very cool. And we have a 1 in 25 Zerdy variant that we're selling for $30. Which this character does not appear in this issue.
Yeah, but she was there before.
Yeah, Silver Banshee.
Yeah.
She's a pretty big part in the early issues of this.
Mm-hmm. Tomahawk, that's one of them. I'm still going through I can't remember all the names, but there's so many like Wild West characters
You'll
from
recognize
DC's
these
Golden Age.
when you
Okay.
see them.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So next for me is Superior Spider-Man #2. Half Spider-Man, half Hawk. No, not really. But yeah, this one was really fun. We loved the first one. And this one is just equally as good. Dan Slott writing, Mark Bagley on art. So the end of the last issue, Supernova, who is the new villain in this, she's looking for Spider-Man. She blames Spider-Man for everything. So Spider-Man said, "Hey, if she's looking for Spider-Man, I'll take off my costume and be Peter Parker and hide from her in the crowd." And that's where we, start up in this issue. But since Supernova cannot find Spider-Man, she decides to take her frustrations out on Spider-Boy, who was just over here trying to help people. And it's funny because, last issue Spider-Man was like, "Hey, Spider-Boy, you don't get to fight. You just need to help people." But now Supernova's like, "I'm going to fight you since you're the only spider person I can find." So Peter tries to save him. He tries to jump in, even without his costume. He's like, I don't have a choice. I got to save Spider Boy. But then Doc Ock enters the fray and grabs Peter because, as we saw at the end of last issue, Doc Ock now remembers everything about his time as the Superior Spider Man. He remembers being in Peter's body and all that. So most of the issue is Supernova and Spider Boy mixing it up, and then Doc Ock and Peter Parker over here mixing it up. The fight does end. I don't want to go too much into like the end and what happens and everything, but the both fights do end eventually. And Supernova, eventually confronts Peter and says that, "Hey, you're Spider-Man's buddy. Tell him to meet me at the place where it all began, or else people, or actually a certain character, will get hurt." But the only problem is Peter has no idea where that is because he wasn't Spider-Man at the time. That was Doc Ock then. And then there's a really cool scene at the end, which I'm really excited for, because I don't know, just really cool. Like I can't wait to see that next issue. So just another fun, action-packed, very '90s feeling, and in a good way because it's just like Mark Bagley drawing Spider-Man, and it's just a lot of Spidey fighting Doc Ock and another villain coming in, and they're just all mixing it up, and it just feels like a good, fun '90s Spider-Man comic, and I really liked it. So there is our A cover right there, and we have a couple of variants. We have the Spider-Man 2 video game encoded suit variant. I didn't wear that one very much. And then there is a Nick Klein Stormbreakers variant. I wish this scene had been in the book, but sadly it was not. With who you got there? You got Hulk and Spider-Punk, Gwen Stacy on drums. You got Ben Grimm and Daredevil down there, Doctor Strange. That's a great cover. Sadly, none of this happens in the book, but it's still really cool.
Okay, next up, we've got our next issue of G.I. Joe Real American Hero. Of course, this is the continuation of Larry Hama's series that's been running forever.
Since the 82?
Yeah. But this is issue 302. And if you're probably like us, you might have jumped on it 301.
Right.
So it's kind of like an issue too. But I would say the last issue, we really enjoyed it, but it did definitely feel like you got thrown into the middle of just kind of chaos. And for those who have been reading, I know that a lot of this stuff was set up back at the IDW run, with Serpentor's like zombie bomb that he has. All that was kind of previewed before that, but now it is continuing on in here. But I would say this one then is way easier to follow along and understand what's going on because you're kind of right at the beginning of this new storyline. So in this, Serpentor's big explosion has gone off, and everyone on this Cobra Island has been turned into pseudo zombies. Everyone talks normal. Everybody's but they suddenly now all look really like zombified, and they crave eating people or even other zombies. Really necessarily know what Serpentor's like end goal is with this.
Yeah, what's his plan with that? Yeah, I don't know.
I think they may be a little bit more like invulnerable.
Okay.
So at one point, one loses its head, and it's still like moving around and stuff. So maybe he thinks he's making an army of unstoppable creatures.
He's making an army of headless monsters.
But I would say this part's actually really funny because he's like starts taking questions from the audience, and they're all zombie people or whatever, and they're all asking like, "Okay, what do we do now?" and stuff. But Serpentor has a plan, and it is he is going to take on Cobra Commander and all of Cobra that are in Springfield, which is like the Cobra Town type thing. So that's kind of one half of the story. The other half of the story is we see the funeral for Wade Collins, who we saw die in the last issue. And I didn't know a whole lot about him.
Me neither.
But that is what's great about this issue because at one point you see the funeral scene, and it's like a very like military ceremonial. There's a great sequence of like folding the flag, all of that. But then afterwards, there's some Joes sitting around, and they ask Stalker, uh, why did he get this big like funeral thing? He used to be a Cobra member.
Yeah.
And then Stalker's like, well, let me tell you about what makes him so important. And there's a flashback scene that tells you like the history of this character
Okay.
and what things he did and everything that made him kind of now they miss him, which I thought was really good because I didn't know anything about the character, and in a very subtle way, they were like, "Hey, here's why you need to care about this." I thought was really cool. Um, so to catch everybody up on that was really nice. And there's a kind of last couple of pages thing that's really interesting that has to do with Snake Eyes that I'm still trying to figure out everything what it's going to mean, but it could be very much like the last issue where it takes the next issue to fully
Right.
understand
Oh
what
yeah, I'm
what
sure.
that means. But overall, I thought this is a great issue. Probably liked it even better than the last one. Because one, I could follow it better. The art continues to be awesome. I would say there's a few less Joes involved in it, but the scenes that like are there are bigger and more over the top and everything in a really cool way. So yeah, definitely check out G.I. Joe Real American Hero issue 302. You'll not be disappointed. And we've got some variants for this as well. So we have the kind of black and white version of the a Qbert cover, and we have this 1 in 10 Walker and Segala variant that we're selling for $15.
I like that one. I like
Yeah,
the way Cobra Commander looks on that.
yeah. There's a great moment in this too with Cobra Commander where he's kind of at one of his like he's standing on a podium in front of all his people, but since he kind of runs this town, this Springfield, a lot of the people are like, hey, my husband was a he was a techno viper on that island. Is he okay? It's like in Parks and Rec when they have to take questions from
Oh
them,
right,
and
yeah.
they all have questions about like I don't like what's going on here and stuff. So it's really like there's some humor mixed in too that I thought was really good.
Nice. Nice mixture.
Yeah,
All right, so next for me is Animal Pound. This is the first issue. I think it's a 5 issue miniseries.
sounds right.
This is written by Tom King with art by Peter Gross. And this whole book, it takes place in a pound full of cats and dogs and rabbits. And it's basically, at least this issue, just this issue, it's basically a prison break story where the animals are plotting their escape, but the whole thing is written like this grand soliloquy. It's very verbose, and it's almost written like a prose novel, I guess. But still, it's still very comic booky. But the first 3 pages are about this dog named Lucky who's about to be put down, and he's talking about the feudal. It depressed me because I love dogs, but he talks about the feudal life of a dog. So, for example, he talks about how when humans come home and they open the door and the dog are so excited to see him because my dogs used to do that, and I was like, oh, they miss me, and he talks about how they jump up and their tails wag and all this stuff, and the humans think they're happy, and the humans think that the dogs are missed them and are so happy to see them, but really, he said, but really to us, humans are just a thing that can turn a knob and push a door. And maybe they'll remember to fill our water dish and that kind of thing, and how like it basically like completely changed my view of like what are dogs really thinking, and I want to think that dogs love us and that kind of thing. So it's just the first 3 pages kind of like that, but the rest of the issue is actually them executing their plan, their escape plan, basically. But it's all, like I said, it's all written very elegantly, and this is going to lead to a bigger story. So like the whole series isn't just about them breaking out of this pound. That was just this first issue, establishing how they get out, that kind of thing. And the dogs and the cats work together, and they can talk to each other. The humans obviously can't understand them, but in the book, it's just regular speech, regular word balloons and that kind of stuff. But yeah, this cat named Fifi and a dog named Titan, they're kind of the two ringleaders. And they're, Titan, while you distract the guy that that's gonna, the guy that's working there overnight, Fifi's gonna then like sneak through a hole and unlock the cages and all that kind of stuff. So the whole thing is just a big prison break basically, but it's a pound instead. And then, like I said, once they get out, what are they going to do next? Because now they have this newfound independence, and what are they going to do with that? So Very interesting. If you like Tom King's work, I think you'll like this. If you like animals, I think you'll like this. So very cool. There's our A cover right there. Now I believe that's Fifi on the cover right there. And we have some incentive variants. So this is a one per store variant from Scotty Young that we're selling for $40 because you can't start a new series without a Scotty Young cover. There's also a one per store. Is this no? That's I thought maybe that was Clayman. This is Man variant. I'm not sure if that's Clayman or not. We're selling that one for $8. And then there's a 1 in 25 Walta variant that we're selling for $15. And maybe that's a connecting cover?
I don't know. If it's not, it's still cool.
Or is it a gatefold? I can't quite tell. But yeah, very, very well done.
Well, next up for me is a book we both read and thoroughly enjoyed.
Yes.
It's Spider-Boy #2. So, it feels like forever since Spider-Boy #1.
Yeah.
And it felt like forever anticipating that #1. But I'm glad to say it continues to be fantastic. So, this is kind of like a standalone story.
It is.
Which is really fun, and I like that, at least for a while, it seems like we're going to be getting standalone stories.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, let's get, Spider-Boy, what's he like in this universe now? And, there's character building and everything, but it's kind of a fun episode of a Spider-Boy TV show. So in this one, Spider-Boy's spider sense goes off, and there's some trouble afoot. And turns out, after he follows it to where, because his spider ability is he can, like, touch something and see that item's...
Well, it warns him of danger, not for himself,
Yeah.
but danger for somebody else who has come into contact with that
Yeah.
item. And so he sort of tracks down the source of that danger from the item that he touched. And
Which happens to be like a ladle?
like a ladle, yeah.
A ladle in this place. Because it turns out that at the soup kitchen this ladle is at, Steve Rogers volunteers there.
Yeah.
And so this leads him to Captain America, who is already on a mission transporting something, which it was really fun when we learned what they were transporting. But this is kind of the first meeting of Spider-Boy and Captain America. And this Captain America is awesome. Like he is like the quintessential Captain America.
It feels like classic Captain America. He's not like mean or anything. He's not mean to Spider-Boy. What are you doing here? Like, hey, I've heard of you. Spider-Man told me all about you. It's nice to meet you. That kind of thing. Yeah.
And it's cool too because Bailey and his spider sense saw that it would be Taskmaster that would be the villain that would be potentially harming Captain America, and it's revealed that Taskmaster has kind of been there the whole time. So, what did you think about, I don't know, just the interaction between these characters? Because I thought it was really, I don't know, we were saying before, it's very like new reader friendly.
Oh yeah.
Like even Taskmaster, when he appears, they kind of give you a brief like, here's what his powers are. He can copy other people's.
He even says, he's like, you forget, I have memory. Like I can copy the moves of anybody I see and that kind of thing. And yeah, I mean this is another one where, like I said, the things I kind of look for in a comic, is it fun? Could you hand it to a kid and they would be super like excited about it? And absolutely you could with this. Like a lot of good action. Yeah. The way that Captain America and Spider-Boy work together to fight Taskmaster, very cool. Yeah, very cool. There's a cool like double page splash of something. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also kind of Christmas adjacent, which is really nice too.
Yeah.
That just added a lot of fun to the whole tone of it and everything. But how they end up teaming up to fight Taskmaster is fun, and I don't know, it all works really well. It feels like when we talk about this book, it's just like, yeah, it's great, but it really is.
It really is.
It's like
it's simple.
It's simple.
It's not overcomplicated. Yeah. There's not all these like big world-altering things. It's just a street level comic book with a kid who, we're meeting him, and it was awesome. It's awesome. And like I said, one and done, but I do think that the overall story is going to continue, but the main events of this story are done after this issue, so you can just hand it to anybody and they'll read it and enjoy it.
Yeah. And one of the things that is kind of like you're saying it might continue is Taskmaster mentions Killionaire, who
Right.
is, I guess, is who he's working for that we don't see, but sounds like next issue we'll
Yeah.
find out more about this
Yeah.
character, which sounded really fun. Plus, there's a backup story that does continue from the previous issue
That's right.
where Spider Boy is at a parade and he is what's is it just Balloon Man is the villain.
I don't remember his name, but that's basically that's his name.
But
But
he's kind of like made the giant parade balloons
yeah.
attack, and Spider Boy has to stop them in really fun, interesting ways. That it was just great.
Yeah, that was the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade because
Yeah,
that's when the first issue came out around Thanksgiving. Yeah, that's what it was.
but he does team up with Santa Claus,
Hmm.
but can he convince Squirrel Girl and everyone else that he really teamed up with Santa Claus? You'll have to read to find out. But a great issue.
And there's an epilogue page too.
Yeah, that goes back to the previous story.
Yeah, that goes back to the previous story, but also references the backup story.
Yeah.
And it's nothing major. It's just more for fun than anything else. But it's just really well done.
Yeah, really well done, really nice. So we highly recommend this.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got some great variants for it as well. So we've got this Paco Medina variant.
Love that
It's
one.
kind of homaging that
X-Men 268.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, I mean, I think if they've got to, right, with the
almost more like they're homaging the new Wolverine Madripoor
yeah.
cover. Because I feel like it's more of that
Yeah.
that setup. We've also got this really nice Humberto Ramos Ski Chalet variant. We've got this is the EJ Sue variant.
Gosh, I love all of these.
I know. I guess what I love and what I was trying to get to with all of that is like even Spider Boy in the book is having fun.
Yes.
And so that really reflects on just the entire thing that, it's not dour. It's not, we've got Amazing Spider Man right now, which is good with the gang war stuff. But this is kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Which is.
He's having fun, but also he's still sort of wrestling with the fact that nobody remembers him. And so he's not all smiles and goofball all the time. Like, it's a really nice balance.
Yeah. We also have a 125 Baldeon variant that we're selling for $15.
Yeah, I had smiles on my face the whole time.
Yeah.
Good art, good action, everything was great. I loved it. All right, so next for me is Nightwing number 109. This is the final part of what I just call the pirate storyline that Nightwing has found himself on. He's on the high seas. He's been with his former girlfriend Beatrice as they are trying to track down her brother and find the hold, which is like this safe storage space that a lot of people use. And this whole story is basically just like I said, it's the finale. So it's Nightwing and B up against her brother for control of the hold and that kind of thing. So there's actually not a lot I can say without spoiling it because like I said, it's the end of the story arc. The reason I wanted to go ahead and talk about it now is because of the backup story, which is a Beast World tie-in. So there's a couple things that happen in this. So first of all, this is the backup story. This is the first appearance of a character called Apex Ava, which is this female character, kind of looks like how Beast Boy looks. How he's all green, she's all green, but she's tall and slender, and I don't know what her deal is going to be yet. Tom Taylor on Twitter kind of made it sound like she was going to be important to the Beast World storyline. And he also said that she's not very nice because somebody said, hey, my kid saw the design cover for Beast World or Nightwing or something, and she loves the look of that character. And Tom said, well, thank you very much, but that's not a nice character. So, be careful with that or something. So I don't know who this character is. She's on one full page. She actually does talk. We see her head to toe. So it's not like a weird, like, oh, is it you see her hand or whatever, like you see her full on, but I don't know what her deal is yet. I don't know if she's got powers or what, but her first appearance is in the backup story. And the backup story features Damien going up against a couple of beast creatures. And then we talked a while back about the cover to number 110, which is the meme of like Nightwing and Superman, like Nightwing pointing, and then Robin is the Catboy. Well, Robin turns into that Catboy in this backup story. So I know that kind of sounds spoiler, but I wanted to let you know that happens in this backup story. So if you're, waiting, if you're not reading Nightwing, but you're wanting to get all the Beast World stuff, next issue of Nightwing is going to be a Beast World tie-in, and it all starts in this backup story. So first appearance of a new character. So if you're into collecting that stuff, and it's not Key Collector doesn't mention that either.
Yeah.
So just wanted to let you know if that's your thing, collecting first appearances, then there is one in the backup story in this. So, but the main story was still really fun too. If you've been reading the pirate storyline, then this is good too. So we have our A cover right here. We got some really cool variants for this. We have this really nice Jamal Campbell variant. I really like that with Dick and Babs. And then we've got the one that I pre-ordered, the Dan Mora variant. And then we've got this really nice 1 in 25 young variant that we're selling for $15. A lot of good covers on that.
Oh yeah. Okay, next up, I've got Batman Santa Claus Silent Night issue number 3. So, continuing the weekly series of Batman, and it's Batman Santa Claus, but it's really kind of like the Justice League.
It's like
Santa
DC
Claus.
heroes,
Yeah, because there is a lot of them. Because this one actually begins with Wonder Woman and Hawkgirl and Joe Mullen's Green Lantern fighting harpies, which is really fun. And the art in that part is done by Trevor Hairsine, so it shakes it up a little bit. That's a really cool part. And also, an elf appears to the Justice League, or members of them that are
Yeah.
currently there, like Superman and Robin and all of that. And he's going to transport them to where Santa is, who is currently fighting Yomengander, the World Serpent. Because, of course, he is. That has been awoken by Krampus. And you see the heroes directly take on Krampus in this one.
Nice.
And when Krampus says, like, he basically says, like, I'm a god. Well, I'm not, but I'm kind of in that range. He means it because even Superman is not safe from what Krampus has to do. So, another great installment of this weekly series. I'm so glad that this is a thing
Yeah.
and it's coming out like on time, and
Yeah.
I don't know, it all works out so well. Just fun Christmassy story.
Like I would think DC just absolutely nailed it with this series. It's
Yeah.
fun, the art's good, it's weekly, it's gonna end right after Christmas. Like it's been great.
And I want to say even in this one, um, part of it takes place on Christmas Day.
Okay.
So, even the story happens right then. So there's our A cover, and you see Hot Girl and Wonder Woman and everybody on that one, which is kind of how the issue begins. We also have this Derek Chew variant with Black Canary and Santa. It's funny how they keep drawing Santa, though, like that Santa, and not like the crazy, like, Norse barbarian that he is in
Yeah.
this. And then we have this, speaking of Trevor Hairsine, this is a 1 in 25 Hairsine variant. We're selling for $20. Superman versus
yeah.
Krampus.
Very cool.
It's a very interesting take on Krampus in there, too.
Yeah.
It's very kind of like through the filter with superhero.
Oh, for sure, yeah. All right, so I'm going to talk about Wonder Woman number 4 because this issue is great. Like this series has been fantastic so far, and this issue does not disappoint. This was a beautiful issue, both in story and in art. Like it looks visually good, but the story they tell is like I got a little choked up at the end. Like I'm not gonna lie, like it's very, very moving. But what's interesting about this issue in particular, there's two juxtaposing stories that's happening at the same time, and they keep bouncing back and forth between one and the other. So through half of the book, you've got the president of the United States working, with other members of his cabinet. They're working to prepare a speech to talk about how dangerous Wonder Woman is, how dangerous the Amazons are, and how the country is basically preparing to go to war with the Amazons. And it's all this, and it's very anti Wonder Woman, right? But intermixed with all that, we keep going back and forth, and we see what Wonder Woman's doing. She's actually spending the day with a child with a terminal illness. So it's kind of like a Make a Wish thing, where this kid, you see, he's in his bedroom. He's got Wonder Woman posters. He's got a Wonder Woman backpack, and just all this stuff. And even the parents are like, "We know what's going on. This wouldn't be our choice to have you here because there's a lot of weird stuff going on with you." But we couldn't say no to our kid. Our kid loves you. So Wonder Woman spends the entire day with this kid, takes him to Paradise Island because that's where he wants to go. And it's beautiful. And it's so well done the way it goes back and forth between Wonder Woman's dangerous and she's a threat to the country and we're going to go to war with her because she's so dangerous and mean and blah, blah, blah. And then seeing Wonder Woman with a sick kid just making one of their last days like wonderful. So just a really, really well done issue. And then there's a really fun backup story with John, Damien, and Lizzie, just like the last one. And the interaction between John and Damien in that one are really, really fun. So, and it's just like the last one. It's like a little one and done mini backup story. Really, really fun. So I loved this. This series has been great so far. This issue was just beautiful, like I said. So yeah, if you're reading it, definitely get this one because it's just super great, and it's leading to something big, I think too. So there's your A cover right there, and then we have the Julian Totino Tedesco variant. Very nice. We have this Bruno Redondo variant, what kind of looks like a stained glass window kind of thing. And then here's one of the Silent Night, the Santa Claus variants with Wonder Woman and Santa Claus. And
Villalobos.
oh, that's a Villalobos, yeah. And then we have this nice 1 in 25 Forbes variant that we're selling for $15. Yeah, this was awesome. I loved it.
Well, continuing with Christmas, but going a bit darker, we have the Deviant #2, considering James Tynan's very, very dark story. As we have our main character Michael, who is a writer writing a comic book about this serial killer that he's actually getting a chance to interview, who was called the Deviant and killed at Christmas and wore a Santa suit. And so in this, he goes to visit kind of a, I don't remember them from the first issue, but it was kind of a witness and slash victim of the Deviant killer back when he was doing that, like in the 70s. But he goes to visit this guy, and the guy is really nice at first, but you soon realize that it seems like the nicest person that Michael, the writer, is when he speaks with him is the alleged killer who understands him and he can actually sympathize with him and everything. Which, is that a good thing, is it a bad thing, I don't know. But the guy who's in jail that's accused of all this is still says he's innocent, but he's kind of come to terms with, like, this is the rest of my life in this jail. uh but meanwhile, on the outside, there are copycat kind of killers of what he did. But is it copycat, or is it the original person and the guy in jail is actually?
There's a lot of questions.
It's a lot of
My head is
questions.
spinning.
But it's really interesting, but it's very, very dark. There is not much fun or hope in this. But if you like the kind of the juxtaposition of Christmas and like this kind of dark, very Silence of the Lambs story, I think you will enjoy it in this second issue of the Deviant. That's our A cover. And then we have our Stoko variant. And we also have a 1 in 10 XMen variant. We're selling for $10. But wait, that's not it. We also have a 1 in 25 Talaski variant for 15. That is very creepy. And I don't like Santa's beards being made out of teeth.
Huh. That is, yeah. That reminds me of the Loki miniseries where the ship was made out of fingernails. Yeah, that was creepy. All right, so next for me is Batman Off-World #2. And this, Batman is continuing his training in space on the big warship known as the War Storm, but he's also working in the lower depths because the people who run the ship, they don't deem him like worthy of being like a warrior, so they just put him like menial tasks and that kind of thing. But he's training with this robot called Punchbot, but he also trains with this character on the cover named Ione, who is a Tamaranian. So she's helping. They're both helping him, learn how to fight aliens and stuff. Because this takes place in like the second year of him being Batman. We learn a little bit more about her backstory too, which is pretty interesting. We get to know her a little bit better. But somewhere along the way, he runs into trouble and he gets locked up along with her, and then they have to plan their prison break basically. And I won't say anything more than that. Don't want to spoil the ending, but I will say I thought this whole miniseries took place on the big warship called the War Storm, but it doesn't. So he finds himself somewhere else by the end of the issue, and I don't know if he's going to go back to that, like, or if it's going to be if we're going to spend another issue or two with another group of characters. I don't know, but I was very surprised to see that. But yeah, so if you like the first issue, the next one is out right now, and it's pretty interesting. It's just cool seeing a younger Batman in space, and he's like, the whole book, he's like, I trained for that. You know, like this alien is coming at me. I trained for that. That kind of alien's coming. I trained for that. So it's really fun. There's our A cover right there. We have this really awesome Matina variant. I really like that one a lot. And then we have this 1 in 25 Homer variant that we're selling for $15.
Very cool. And next up, I've got a small helping of Star Wars titles, starting with Star Wars High Republic, Phase 3, Issue 2. This is just continuing the new storyline in the High Republic. It's just getting started, so not a whole lot to say here, but is very cool. And we are dealing with a lot of like, what's the Hutt's relationship to the Nile, and they're now that the Nile's trying to become their own kind of sanctioned place, and they're trying to work with other groups, even if they're criminal groups. You'll have to see how it goes, but it's a really fun issue of High Republic. We also have this week Dr. Aphra number 39. This is the penultimate issue of Dr. Aphra, but like I said in the Revelations issue, there is a chance that Aphra will be popping up again very soon. I don't know if in a new series or in maybe in a backup story and something. I'm not sure, but Aphra is, going to still be around for a while. We also have Star Wars Darth Vader number 41. This is still part of the Dark Droids tie-in, and in this one, we see what was Vader's plan when he allowed the Scourge to take him over. Turns out, Vader's always on top, so you'll have to see what happens there, but very interesting how he might even turn them against themselves. So really cool. We've got some variants for those. For High Republic, we have the connecting variant with Lorna D, who was a former Nile, is now working for the Hutt, so a lot of the issue kind of focuses on her. We've got this 1 in 25 Stott variant that we're selling for $20.
I like that big guy.
Yeah, that's Skier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was around in the very beginning of the High Republic stuff, right?
Yeah,
because I think I remember when I read that. Yeah.
We also have this variant for Dr. Aphra. This is the Wu variant. And for Darth Vader, we have this really nice lambing variant, just very classic. And finally, we have a 1 in 25 Baren's variant for Darth Vader for $30.
That's a lot of Star Wars.
Yeah, and I know that's the Scourge right there, but he looks a lot like the villain from Infinite Crisis or whatever.
The Monitor.
Anti-Monitor.
Anti-Monitor,
He
yeah.
looks like the Anti-Monitor.
Yeah, it kind of does, yeah. I can see it. All right, so next for me is Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong number 3. We were loving this so far, and this one just is every bit as good as the last two. So we get more characters dealing with more monsters. We had a couple of different, almost kind of sort of like an anthology book. It's not, but where you have one group of characters doing something and another group of characters. Well, we get more of that in this because Flash, Green Lantern, and Supergirl, they deal with a monster at Iron Heights. Meanwhile, you've got Wonder Woman and Donna Troy dealing with another one on in Themyscira. We see Shazam and a surprise hero. I was totally surprised to see this hero pop up and fight Godzilla in Metropolis and lay waste to a bunch of buildings there. And we also see a little bit more of Green Arrow on Skull Island. We don't get a lot of that yet, so he's still sort of investigating, trying to figure out what these monsters are, where they come from, and that kind of thing. And there are a couple of other big story points in this, but I don't want to spoil them, obviously. But just another fun, action-packed issue of heroes fighting giant monsters, these two universes colliding. So it was really fun. So if if you're enjoying it, don't miss the third issue. We've got our A cover right here. We've got this Mike Deodato Jr. variant. This is the John Boy Myers. I should have recognized that. Wow, yeah. John Boy Myers variant. I love the imagery of giant Godzilla and little Superman like facing off against each other,
but they're still equals.
Right, right. And then we have this 1 in 25 DeMeo variant that we're selling for $20. Yeah, really fun. Another one you could hand to a kid and say, "Look at this," and they'll be like, "Wow, that's awesome."
Okay, next up, I've got Amazing Spider-Man issue number 40. So, still part of the Gang War storyline. And as you can see on the cover, and what happened in the last issue, we have Tombstone, who has now decided to team up with Spider-Man and She-Hulk, which pretty crazy,
Yeah,
considering Spider-Man and Tombstone's history. But the enemy of my enemy, I
I
guess, is
get.
kind of what they're
Yeah.
they're thinking here. It's really fun because you do see those three go up against the Tracksuit Mafia
Hmm.
from Hawkeye and the original Hawkeye comic and the TV show.
Very cool, bro.
Yeah, they say there's a lot of bros thrown around. Um, Also in this, you see Beetle, who after what happened at her wedding and everything, has turned very dark, and she does adopt a new. I don't know if it's a full new suit, but she definitely gets a new helmet, and
It looks like a new suit.
yeah, I
A
think it might
little
be a
bit
little
different.
spikier,
Yeah.
and she looks a lot more sinister. Plus a new, I don't want to say a new crime boss enters, but definitely makes themselves known in this.
Yeah.
Which I'm interested how they are going to be in this, and also in another thing.
I know what you're. Yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah. That is.
But they have some backup soldiers in this
Yeah.
that may show where they're from. So all that very cryptic, but you'll definitely like it because we're still dealing with the kind of crime families of the Marvel universe in a really fun way, and you see kind of that like just down and dirty brawling of the tracksuit mafia and all of the heroes and stuff. Really cool in there. So that is Amazing Spider-Man 40. We also have this Vasquez variant. We've got a Peach Momoko Nightmare variant. We have the video game Spider-Man 2 Suits variant. We have this, I really like this. This is the J. Scott Campbell
Yeah.
Ski Chalet variant with Mary Jane.
I like all the ski chalet variants. They're
Yeah,
really cool.
it's a fun.
Be awesome if they
It,
were connecting.
I know,
Yeah.
but they're kind of like I would have never thought of that to be a theme, but now that I see, I'm like, oh, I like it.
Yep.
We also have this 1 in 25 Tony Daniel variant that we're selling for $15.
I like that one.
Yeah.
All right. So next for me is 2 years in, and it's still my favorite book on the stands: Batman, Superman, World's Finest, number 22. This is continuing the Kingdom Come storyline, where Batman and Superman go to Earth 22, which is the Kingdom Come Earth. And they've been fighting the Kingdom Come, or the early Kingdom Come. It's not like full on
Yeah.
Kingdom Come yet, but they're on the Kingdom Come Earth. But things haven't completely progressed to where it was in Kingdom Come yet. But they're fighting against those versions of themselves. Plus a whole host of other heroes as well. It was like a bunch of them. Like, it was really cool to see. And I'll tell you that there's three heroes that pop up. I mean, I guess technically it's their first appearance, but they don't give you their names, and they don't really even tell you what their powers are. They just pop up because Batman makes the note. He's like, "Huh, I don't recognize these guys. I guess not everybody on this earth is a doppelganger." So these three heroes don't exist anywhere else. I have never seen them before, and like I said, we don't have names, we don't have powers. They were only in like 2 or 3 panels, but
Interesting to throw them in there just randomly and not.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're gonna pop up again because they had cool designs. Like,
Yeah.
the minute I saw it, I was like, I want to know who these are.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know. So it was interesting, interesting choice there. And I won't tell you how the fight goes or what happens next, but we do learn more about Gog, and what his master plan is, why he's doing what he's doing, and all that kind of stuff. It's another stellar issue. Like, I just love Batman, Superman, World's Finest. It's every bit as good now as it was in issue 1 2 years ago. So don't miss the next issue if you are collecting this. So we have our A cover right there. We've got a couple variants. This is the Jerome Opeña variant. We haven't seen him in a little bit. So very cool there. And then this is the 1 in 25 Perel variant that we're selling for $15.
I have to double look at my notes for this next one because this is
Oh yeah.
God's number 3, the Jonathan Hickman helmed epic that even issue 3 still leaves us asking a lot of questions like, what is God's?
What is going
What
on?
is
Yeah.
this book? And that's the thing. Like each issue, I feel like has been good. Like it's a good book. I don't see what the end goal is. But in this one, we do get maybe kind of our first hint of I don't want to say like an ongoing threat because we don't know that yet. But there is a character introduced in this called Oblivion, and he seems to be a thing that even these really higher up beings that we've been dealing with in this book uh kind of fear and revere and take very seriously. We see what he looks like in his kind of mortal form, even though it's not completely solid. Like he looks like a guy, but then like part of his head will just like start like uh I don't know, glooping off or something. It's very weird.
Hey, when that happens.
And then you see like, oh, what does he actually look like in this kind of like ethereal realm? And it's very like horrifying, over the top, bestial looking celestial being. So that's really interesting. So we see this character on the cover and on one of the variants. It's similar to that, but that character doesn't appear in this, which I thought was weird. But overall, I thought it was a really good issue. It's one of those, if you read the first two, I'm sure you'll want to continue reading this. If you read the first two and you're like, I don't get this and I don't like it, it's the same thing. So
Yeah, more the
you
same.
have to be prepared for uh, this very dense Hickman storytelling.
Yeah, like I like the concept of the first two issues, but like you said, I'm still just trying to figure out like why and
Yeah.
I guess I can't see the bigger picture.
It's the big
Yeah,
picture that's the harder thing to see because, Doctor Strange is in this a bit, and he seems really concerned. And I'm trying to kind of like view everything through him because I understand him,
yeah.
but I still don't quite see the full picture. But what is this, four? Is this 4 issues or five
I
issues?
think it's five at least. It actually might be longer. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. But as it goes on, we'll still keep talking about it because I really want to uncover what the big storyline is here.
Like I hope in the last issue, like something happens and it's like and it clicks. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that's
All
what
the
all this
pieces
is.
fall into
It's almost
place.
like Mr. Miyagi training Daniel. Like, why do you have me painting the house?
Yeah.
Oh, that now I get it. It'd be nice if there was that
Yeah,
kind of moment.
yeah. So we'll see, but it continues to be really fun, and the art is fantastic in it. We've got some variants as well. We have the Daughterman variant. I think one of the hard things is too, each issue kind of introduces almost a completely new cast of characters.
Yeah,
And so by the time I learn some from the previous issue, they don't really appear
yeah.
in the next ones. I love this cover. This is the Ron Lim cover that looks like kind of an old big Marvel cosmic event.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it says Oblivion on there, and he kind of looks like that in his other form, but imagine in that, but more like a snake.
Hmm.
Very weird. And then we also have this 1 in 25 Phil Noto variant that we're selling for $10.
All right. I've got Uncanny Spider-Man number 5. Just wanted to, highlight this one because this is the final issue of this miniseries. It's the final battle between Nightwing and
Nightwing?
Nightcrawler, Nightcrawler and Vulture. There's a couple of surprise guest stars in it, which I didn't. Maybe I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. And was really interested to see if this would have any kind of connection with the X-Men. Was it
Blue.
Blue Origin, or
Yeah.
something like that? And it does somewhat. I do feel like if you didn't read that, you might be a little bit confused as to one piece of this, not the overall story. I didn't read that, but you filled me in.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, because I would have been confused too. So there is a little bit of connection between that, almost like the X-Men Blue Origin, or maybe could have been like Uncanny Spider-Man number like 4.5 or something like that. So, they do relate a little bit. But yeah, if you've been reading this it all gets wrapped up. Nice little bow put on it. And yeah, I'd like to, Nightcrawler was great in this. I'd like to see more of him soon. So, and I only have the 8 cover, so I'm not sure if we got any variants and they've already been pulled or what, but just that one right there. And then we just wanted to show you real quick this Joker and Harley Quinn uncovered
Uh-huh.
foil variant, because this is a classic Alex Ross cover, but all in foil, and it looks great. Now we didn't read this for this show over the weekend, but I just wanted to show you the cover because it looks so good. You can't even really see it. The whole thing, right? The whole thing is in
It's the whole
foil.
thing.
Yeah, the whole thing is in foil. You can't really see it through the camera, but yeah, it's all foil, and it looks really really cool. So if you like Alex Ross covers or foil covers, that might be one you want to get.
And not to be a spoiler, but Does Nightcrawler retain his suit through the end of it?
Yes.
Okay,
He tries to give it back to Spider-Man. He's like, nah, you can keep it.
good, because I want more of Nightcrawler wearing that.
Yeah. Yeah, Spider-Man's something like, yeah, you earned it, and
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how you got your tail in or something like that. So yeah, he kept
I
it.
feel like he bamps into it. He like
Oh,
flings it up and then pops into it.
like the Flash ring where the tube
Yeah,
comes out
yeah.
and then but he poof.
Yeah, I think that's how it is. Okay, well, that was a big show with a lot to talk about. So hopefully you stayed through the whole thing and you learned some. So when you go into your store coming up this week, you know what you're in store for and you know what to grab and what to maybe avoid if it didn't sound like it fits you. But I feel like there's a comic out there for everyone. So
Absolutely.
go find yours.
And if you did stay all the way through, drop us a Santa emoji. We had a lot of Santa this episode. So yeah, drop us something Santa just to let you know that you hung out.
Yeah, we'll pick it up.
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much for watching. Head over to infinityflux.net where you can buy these books right now and pre-order books. Everything you pre-order, you get 10% off of, and that's a real good deal. And you can get them mailed straight to your house, or if you're local, you can come by the store and pick them up. Either is fine and equally great. So we will see you coming up on Wednesday for maybe a special show. You'll have to wait and see what it is. The ordering's a little small this week because of the holidays. But we might have a special holiday treat in store for you all. So until then, we'll see you later.
Bye bye.